Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, and this is the Raging Verbalist. And if that hasn't gone out correctly, I'm going to say it one more time. This is John Paul Mendoza. This is the Raging Verbalist. It is May 1st, 2020, and you are joining me live right now. So let us get kicked off. The Raging Verbalist. So those of you who are just joining me for the very first time, is my weekly Friday Facebook Live. It is at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and I get on and pick a topic and I work off of a topic. You can always send questions to the lovely Sandra. We'll be saying hi to Sandra in just a second, but you can send questions to her at the Position to Win Facebook group and ask away about this topic and what we're going to do. So it is a weekly call. We go through some topics. Talk about business, talk about mindset, talk about how to survive this crazy that we're talking about today, which is the crazy. So welcome. Let's welcome Sandra to the show. Hey, Sandra, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. So
Good,
lovely.
good.
Sandra is there. She'll be checking your questions. Be nice. Say good things, and we'll go through all of that. Also, I'll be kind of popping in and out with some things that I think you should really be thinking about. Now, let's kind of talk about what I call the shitstorm, which is the coronavirus. And it is a shitstorm because it has screwed up business all over the place. If you have not seen your stock portfolio, now I understand we just ended up with the market better than dead this last couple of days. But I got to tell you, when I look at my stuff, I go, wow, this has been a tough, rough road. Now, the point of it is that the coronavirus is global. I think there's like 195 or 196 countries. There's 182 of them reporting that they have coronavirus. Uh, let's just call it even, and they're all there. It's everywhere. Now, what that does though is it makes people a little crazy, and having traveled and watched this process. I mean, I went to the supermarket the other day, stock up on the essentials, and the first thing I noticed is that they had big signs. And in California, they have been beating us with, you must buy reusable bags. You must bring in your own bags. We will not provide you with bags. We are saving the world. We're not going to use bags. And, it's taken me all this time to finally get it through my head. And I brought in the bags and they said, you got to get them out of here because those bags, God knows where they've been. Who knows what they contain. So we're all dealing with crazy. And I mean, we got a lot of crazy. So we got to deal with that. Now, that takes us to what can you control? And this is the first writer downer. By the way, if you're doing anything dangerous, do not write this stuff down. But if you're not, write some of these things down. You probably get a lot out of this. And I will tell you that one of the kookiest things that I have seen is the fact that people are doing nothing, and they're sitting around waiting for this to change and to happen. So what can you control? And what you can control is your response to this thing. You can control what you do with your time. So you can control your response to the coronavirus, and you can also control your time. So you should be using your time effectively every single day. If you use your time effectively, first off, this won't be a big waste. It isn't, because I hear people getting a little stir crazy, hear people getting a little nutty, business is off. All of my clients, I do consulting, I do coaching. I have businesses that are running. Everybody's business is going through, where you have to, as I like to say, you have to work twice as hard, make half the money. And had a client who corrected me and said he's working 4 times as hard for 10% of the money. Well, but still you have to work hard. But you can control your time and what you do with it, and that's very important. Now, once again, a reminder, if you have a question, something that's burning, you got to get it out. You want to put it up there, is go to the Facebook group, Position to Win, put up a question, and Sandra will put it up, send it up to me and ask me that. And the importance of that is that I want to get your feedback. That's important. Also, if we don't get to them today, don't worry. We collect them, we keep them, and we will get back to them soon. So let's talk a little bit about today's topic before we get into some questions. And today's topic is the hunter's mindset. And the reason why I call it the hunter's mindset is that if you have a hunter's mindset, if you understand what you're trying to accomplish in life, it will make your life a lot easier. You will get things done in a different way. And the hunter's mindset is how do I go out and hunt in this tough time? How do I hunt and work no matter what the circumstance and situation is? It's very easy to get sucked into what I hear a bunch of people doing. I had an opportunity to talk to my grandniece, and she just had a birthday, and I said, what's happening? Well, she's laid off, so she's sitting on her rear end. And what is she doing with this time? Well, she has expanded the number of streaming services, so she has more stuff to binge watch. All I can tell you is that we all make decisions. It's what can we control? We can control our reaction, and we can control our time. And the hunter's mindset is we don't have time to sit down and do nothing. To me, it's okay. You want to watch some stuff? Great. You want to, gonna watch the 9 millionth cat video on YouTube? Okay. You want to do all those things? All right. But I'm going to tell you right now that what you want to do is you want to get your head wrapped around it. The hunter's mindset is that while they are loafing, while they are not doing anything, this is the fable of the ant and the grasshopper. You want to be like the ants. You want to keep working. You want to keep getting things put together. And the hunter's mindset is very important. And in fact, it's going to be where we're going to be talking a lot about, which is as we dig deeper in this, because this is level 0. The first thing is just being aware that there is this thing as a hunter's mindset. And a hunter's mindset means that you're not waiting for things to come to you. You're not waiting for them to show up. What you're trying to do is you're trying to actually go out there and find opportunities, find things that you can do. If you've always wanted to, ... now you got the time, you can go do it. Now you may say, but John, I don't have the money. I don't have that. Well, okay. What we have, especially with the access through the internet, is we have access to more material than, frankly, governments had just 25 or 50 years ago. We have access to massive amounts of information. Maybe not 25 years ago, but we have massive information that we have. And the question is what are you doing with it? So level 0 is making sure that you are getting yourself organized, putting together the plans that you need to do, laying out what needs to happen. What areas are you deficient? What areas do you need to enhance and improve? How do you get some of those hours in? My most interesting tell or sense about whether somebody was actually going to be successful or not is I would hand them a book. Now, I just happen to have 2 new books, so you could go hand them this book. Like most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes, but hand somebody a book and say, read this book and tell me about it. Interestingly enough, is that if I hand somebody a book and I would, in the past, it was Positioning the Battle for Your Mind. And I came back to them after a period of time. Now, it is a book that you can read rather rapidly. It is not a complicated book. It is not like a book that's on calculus or advanced physics or even mergers and acquisitions. It is a book that talks about advertising and marketing. And if I handed that book to people and say, go read the book and then come back and tell me about it, it's fascinating how many people would get the book and not actually read the whole book or read only a little bit of it, or who knows what they did with it, maybe propped up an uneven table. So, and what was the number one excuse? The number one excuse is, John, I'd love to read more. I don't have enough time. Now, that's a really bad excuse because I'm a pretty busy person, and I believe that you probably do have the time. So the hunter's mindset is that we have to do what we have to do to make things happen, and we have to get there. So level 0 is getting your head on straight. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, let's talk about something else that goes on, which is right now we have a lot of people who are living in fear. Fear is a bad place to be at. And what this speaks to is the fact that when things are going well, and I see this all the time, when things are going well, there's a certain amount of cockiness. There's a certain amount of sense that I'm entitled and things are going to work out and it's all going to be good. Everything is yeah. And what I call that is fair weather courage. See, people are always brave when they're sitting there and they have no pressure on them. I'll never forget sitting in a breakfast meeting and preparing for a negotiation that we were going to. It was going to be a multi-million dollar negotiation. And as I was talking to my clients' people, they sat there and they were a little nervous, but they were all very, very confident. And I said, that's great. We need that confidence. We need to be unified. We need to make sure that you hold up. And what we did is we then walked in to this negotiation. And I said, look, I'm taking point. You follow my lead and all of that. Well, all I can tell you is that this was a negotiation which had high degree of ramification of profitability for what we were trying to do. And they said, John, if we could just get a little bit more money, this isn't gonna, we're almost drowning, but we're not quite. We keep hitting the bottom with our toes and popping our head back up. And I said, okay, so what percentage increase do you need to get? Now, by the way, this is a negotiation on a deal that we were going to get. This is a deal that we had and we needed more money. And they said, well, John, if we could get 2%, that would be okay. 2% will be okay. We're no longer drowning. Maybe 3% would be fantastic. I said, okay. Now, no matter what I say, and I kept, reiterating, I kept pointing out to it, no matter what I say, guys, and we'll call them, Bob and Ted, no matter what I say, do not react. Do not do that. Put a poker face on. Make sure of that. And we walked in and we're going through the preamble and I'm describing where the project is and how the project is developed and how things have taken place. And then I look at the program manager and I look at his people. By the way, there were 3 of us. There were about 9 or 10 of them. So I said, look, this hasn't gone the way we thought it was going to go. And you know what? I've got to tell you that we're going to have to go make some changes and there's going to have to be a price increase. Now, as soon as I said that, Gary, who was the customer, looks at his people and says, gentlemen, we always knew this day would come. We always knew that they would eventually come back to us. And he said, John, okay, tell us, what are the numbers? What is the increase? And I said, I'd like to express it as a percentage so you understand the magnitude of how we have missed the target. Now, I look at Bob and Ted, and they're feeling pretty confident, right? The guy just gave us the green light. 2% is going to be in the bag. The big chief had told them, even if we got 1.5%. By the way, when you're talking about big numbers, billions of dollars, sometimes it's just a little bit that makes all the difference. So they're sitting there pretty confident. Now, this is fair weather courage. And I said, well, here's what we need to do, guys. We need to raise prices by 22%. Well, you could hear the cushion of one of those chairs all of a sudden getting sucked up somewhere, and you can figure out where, because the guy he just about lost it. And I looked at these 2 guys, and blood was draining out of their head. Fear was in their eyes because all of that confidence, all of that courage that they had earlier was gone. And the customer, Gary, looks at his people and says, well, John, you're going to have to lay out for us why we're here. But if that's what you're asking for, that's where we're going to start. Well, we ended up, and it took a couple of flights across the country because I had a harder time convincing my client, not his customer, that we needed and deserved 22%. We got it, and it was worth a lot more than the other side. Now, what did Bob and Ted do? They went and they saw the big man. They saw the guy in the ivory tower of my client and said, you won't believe what this guy did. We told him, hey, 2%, 3%, we were in good shape. And he goes, okay, what did he get? 22%. Now, he was quite pleased with me, but he said to me, John, you scared the daylights out of my people. They don't necessarily want to travel with you. Well, it served a couple of purposes. Number one is I made my client a lot of money, which is why they hired me. And number 2 is that inside of that building, inside of that 75,000 square foot facility, several hundred people, is that my position, my recognition, all of that went up significantly because I had pulled off 11 times the increase that they thought would be okay, adequate, make it all work. Now, the reason why I tell you this story is that fair weather courage means that in tough, unprecedented times, because we are in unprecedented times, is that we will have lots and lots and lots of negative feedback. And there is lots of things that are going on. Businesses that are struggling, oil that's going crazy, airlines that we wonder if they're going to make it. There's not a single sector of what's going on today. And these unprecedented times means that in the US, where there's approximately 32.5 million businesses, if you're outside the US, go look up how many businesses are in your country. But 32.5 million businesses are going to need a turnaround. They're going to need to be changed from where they were to where they need to go. Now, the point of it is that this is an unprecedented time. So I have been asked several times on Raging Verbalist, where are the opportunities? And I'm now going to unfold those over the next few weeks. But the opportunities start with 32.5 million businesses. And I believe there's probably another 20 million, maybe even 30 million who are in the gig economy, who are independent contractors, who are running micro businesses, that also every single one of them will need a turnaround. And that's critical because turnarounds are an area that I have a lot of expertise and a lot of experience. Over the past 27, 28 years, I have been involved in working in turnarounds. And one of the ways that I like to describe it is that to do turnarounds, one must have a mindset. And that is, in fact, the hunter's mindset. And that's what I'll be sharing with you today and ongoing. I would encourage you to ask questions that you may have about this and how this may affect you, because these unprecedented times means we have unprecedented opportunities. The question is are you going to be willing to go after them? Will you actually have the courage necessary to make this work? Or are you going to be like so many people who will wake up and say, I missed that opportunity. I was there at ground zero, but I never saw it coming. And with that, I'm going to ask the lovely Sandra if we have, what is the first question that we have?
Yeah, so can you explain what exactly is a hunter's mindset?
Excellent question. So here's what a hunter's mindset is. A hunter's mindset is that we are going out and looking for targets, looking for opportunities. You have to be willing to get out of your situation, out of your circumstance. You have to be willing to go out into the world and find opportunities. And a hunter's mindset is that we're not trying to win everything. We're trying to actually win specific opportunities. Specific things need to be done. So let's start off with you're now under a lot of pressure, right? Lots of people under pressure. The business is collapsing around you. The world is collapsing around you. A hunter's mindset says, how much of all of that tragedy, how much of all of that pressure and pain and all that can I push to the side for the moment? Not forever, but for the moment. So therefore, I can focus on the opportunities I have at hand. See, at any point in time, we're always dealing with this balancing act between problems and opportunities. The hunter's mindset is that we are going to now spend some time every day focusing on the opportunities. When we talk about businesses going through feast or famine, lots of people, especially the smallest businesses, go through feast and famine. The reason why we have famine is that while we were feasting, while things are going well, sound familiar? While things were going well, we weren't working on some of those fundamental things. We weren't developing where we were going to go out and go win more business or find more business or do more things. We weren't doing those things. And because we weren't doing those things, what happened is that once the feast ended, once we finally put all the stuff in the trash bags and took them out and put them on the curb and did all that, then we woke up and said, wow, I don't have any business that I'm going to chase. In fact, one of the impediments of closing deals is that I've seen salespeople not want to close deals, not because they didn't need the money, but because they were fearful that if I close the deal and the deal is done, then what do I do? I don't have another opportunity. So the hunter's mindset is one that says every day, I need to get up and I need to think about how do I find the next opportunity and the next opportunity and what that is. Now, this requires something which I understand how difficult it is to have this trait. Now, maybe you already have it, but I do not possess it. In fact, when they did the original genome project, you may not be aware, but my DNA was tested. My wife insisted upon it because I have no patience at all. I am a very impatient person. Now, if you're going to have a hunter's mindset, you have to cultivate to the level of patience that you need. Now, having said that, having been through that, is that I understand, though, that things take some time and that we have to develop that ability to have patience. Now, here is the challenge. Again, we're back to the balancing act. We have patience on one side and action on the other. So we have to always have those two conflicting states working for us. We're going to have that conflict because we need patience, but we also need action. Now, I've seen people who were so patient, they didn't do anything. There's a lot of people today who seemingly are forced to have patience and they're not doing anything. But what you really need to do is you need to understand is that you need to hone and develop the actions that you need to do. The real question is, are you going to develop the skills of a sharpshooter? Are you going to be the assassin? Are you going to be that sniper who can take out that target? I had a fascinating chance to meet somebody who was a Navy SEAL, and he told me about one of the guys who was with him was actually the American sniper. They made a movie, they did all that other stuff. And I said, so what is, give me some of the keys that you have to be a good sniper. And he goes, the ability to block out the environment that is attempting to distract you, the ability to block out the environment that is attempting to distract you. Wow, we have a lot of distractions. We have a lot of things that can push us the wrong way. The other thing is that whenever you see a story and you believe that that story is negative or that story talks about in a precipitous way what isn't really going on, but what isn't taking place, what you have to ask yourself is what is the opportunity in this destructive process. So years ago when I decided that I wanted to change what I was doing, I understand that I know how to sell very well. I understand I can teach people how to improve their ability to sell. I know that there are lots of things I can do to drive people to higher levels of sales effectiveness. All of that made sense with one exception. And that exception was that I had a coaching session with Gary Halbert. And Gary was like one of like the best copywriters ever. And Gary was a very direct, brutal guy. By the way, there's some, I'm giving you a little warning, it's a little adult language. So I'm talking to Gary, and Gary says, well, tell me what you do. Now, I was a little shocked because I thought that Gary would have done a little modicum of research, but turns out no. So I'm on the phone with the man, and I said, well, Gary, I've got this thing called speed selling. I'm known as Dr. Speed Selling. And he goes, well, that sounds pretty cool. What's that? And I said, well, I teach people how to sell faster, teach people how to shorten their sales cycle, teach people how to sell better. And Gary kind of coughs up a little bit. And he goes, well, John, here's the reality. Nobody wants to learn how the fuck to sell. Now, if that's your life, if that's your calling, if that's this is what I'm doing, it's a little knock you back on your ass. And I said, excuse me, Gary, Are you telling me that selling isn't important? Are you telling me that this isn't necessary? Are you telling me that this isn't really, you know, what people should learn? And he goes, oh, I think it's the lifeblood of every business. He goes, I think it's essential. But it doesn't negate the fact that nobody wants to learn it. Nobody wants to get engaged with it. Now, I was already leaning in a different direction, but this made it clear to me. See, I could stick with what I had, which was sales extraordinaire guy, right? Or I could pivot, and the pivot was to fully embrace the fact that I was going to do turnarounds. By doing turnarounds, I was able to increase my billing significantly. First off, it made me unique. There were not a lot of people on the sales side that were doing turnarounds. The second thing is that I needed to do what? If you're going to, there's two kinds of turnaround specialists. There's the financial side, which is where you take the chainsaw and the weed whacker and the cleaver and chop pieces off until you get to a business small enough to survive the level of income that they now have. Or you can be on the other side, which is where I have lived my career, which is to increase sales, increase profitability, increase margins, increase all of those things. And therefore, we can determine what we need to do. By the way, I still do the meat cleaver part because you have to do that. You have to, in fact, change the cost structure dramatically. Now, this made it much easier for me to work with the financial community because, see, the financial community always found that the sales trainers, the sales consultants, the hucksters, as they believe they were, would come in and, of course, would poo poo the idea of changing anything. All we need to do is go spend more money. But I understood that simultaneously we had to cut money and at the same time increase sales. The reality of it is that that hunter's mindset was the fact that I now started looking for targets, specific targets, and knew that we needed to have action immediately, but we had to have the patience for the process to work. And because of that, it changed my direction tremendously. Now, as I look at the clock, I know that we are going to run a little tight today and understand that we're going to continue to talk about the hunter's mindset. I'll give you two simple concepts that you're going to want to embed inside of your head. A hunter's mindset is that you need to develop the ability, have the patience to find opportunities that are worthy and will pay off for you. That's number one. And number two is that once you find them, the opportunity that is, once that has arrived, you will need to spring into action in a very dramatic and fast way. Because if you do not, opportunities do not sit around waiting for you. Opportunities, in fact, are fleeting. Opportunities require you to move with incredible speed. And you have to do it in a very aggressive way. More opportunities are lost because somebody stumbles upon one, and what they do is they play around with it. They think about it. They believe they have such an unlimited amount of time, and you do not. So let me just remind everybody that got a couple of books out there. Number one is, if you go to Amazon, you can find Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes. Just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to Win, that's based upon a concept of positioning yourself, positioning a business, positioning a product, service, or what have you to win. By the way, you can always go to the website, positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. Lots of resources. It's also available through every other outlet, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, you name it, it's out there. If you had a local bookstore that was open, you could go in and order it through there, or you can order it directly from the website if you have a mind to, and by the way, you'll get an autographed copy. The other thing is that we also have a book called Remote Work for a Better World. And I have to tell you that, remote work has become a hot topic, but it's something that I've been doing for a long time. And what we're trying to do is give you the skills and the insights necessary so you can be successful working from your home, working from wherever, just as I have done over many, many years. And those businesses that I've been able to help get to virtualization have reaped the benefits for that. Now, Remote Work for a Better World is a whopping 99 cents. So go clean out your couch cushions, recycle a few cans. You don't even need to give a pint of blood. If you have rare blood, maybe a teaspoon will do it, but go out and get that book, and that's available. Another interesting facet is that Raging Verbalist is now a YouTube channel. So if you ever want to go catch some of these, I don't know how long it takes for them to get put up there on YouTube, but I know that we're doing that on a regular basis, and that will expand over time. And that's happening. Uh, and then the most exciting thing, and we've started talking about it today, is the fact that we are going to be launching a coaching program in the next little bit. And I don't, we'll talk about that in a little bit also, but it's going to be called the Yin and Yang Coaching Program. And what it does is it takes the strengths of the analog side, that would be me, the strengths of the digital side, that would be Gabe Batista, my co-conspirator, co-author, and business partner, and meld them together into a coaching program that will help you do what? Well, we're going to be focusing on turnarounds because, frankly, with 32.5 million businesses who are going to need turnarounds, lots of opportunity for that, but it's something that you're going to want to look at and look at soon. Also, I would point out to you that if you go to positiontowinbook.com, that there is a pivot quiz that's up there now, and you might check that out. So, Sandra, what is our next question?
So when is the coaching program actually going to start?
So that's a good question. So the coaching program has been something that Gabe and I have been working on for quite a period of time. And though I don't have an announcement yet, but start watching for it and also start thinking about some of the things that you are going to need to change in your life to become extremely successful. And it will be taking many of the lessons that I've learned over my 27, now 20, almost 28 years of doing turnarounds, plus all of the other things and moving that in there. So that is a good question. Watch this space. We will announce it here. And in fact, I just got off the phone a little bit ago, and looks like we're going to have a great promotional partner for that. And but don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon. But yeah, that is coming. All right, Sandra, what do we have as a next question?
Yeah, how does a hunter's mindset help you in this kind of crisis?
So the interesting thing about a crisis like today that we're dealing with that's global is that it's very easy to get down. It's very easy to say, wow, the whole world is just falling apart. In fact, I see, lots of, lots of emails, lots of texts, people who are clients of mine telling me about how, as example, the Mayo Clinic lost $3 billion and, Ford is running out of money and maybe they have to merge with Volkswagen and, the whole world is going to come to an end and all that. And what I'd say is that how the hunter's mindset helps is that just a slight change inside of our heads, just a slight change inside of our brains, is that instead of seeing this as the end, instead of us seeing it as this is all going to be over and gone and nothing is going to ever happen in a positive way again, is that frankly, what you want to do is start thinking that what this is going to mean is that there are opportunities, unprecedented opportunities. Now, understand that the world is changing in a way that we have never seen. And I want to just describe the difference between deflection and inflection. And this is such an important insight that we're gonna take a few moments to talk about it. So if you're driving down the road, right? You're driving down the road and you got your family in whatever vehicle you got. We're going to call it you're in a minivan, right? You're driving down the road and there's this tire carcass. We've seen those, right? Hopefully if you've driven on a highway, you've seen a tire carcass off of an 18-wheeler. And you look at that and you instinctively jerk the wheel, go into that next lane, the kids look up from their screens, your significant other says, what's going on? Everybody gets awakened by this, sense of dread and doom. And you move out of the way, you miss the tire carcass and you come back. Because if you hit those things, by the way, you have a potential of doing some body damage. I mean, it's just crazy what can happen. In fact, I was coming back from Arizona years ago with my brother, and we had just finished an event in Arizona. We're just hauling ass to California, and we're life in the fast lane. We're having a good time, and bang! I hit a paint can. By the way, it was a full paint can. Luckily, it was a plastic paint can. It was a rental car. And as soon as that happens, I've got to get across, and this is just outside of Palm Springs. I got to get across, you know, five. I'm in one. I'm in lane number one. I got to get all the way over to lane number five into the, to the side of the road because this thing is just doing crazy stuff. That's a deflection because we got the damn plastic thing out of there. We ended up having to clean the rental car. What a pain in the ass that was, but we did. No real damage. Luckily, no damage under the vehicle. But that's a deflection because we were able to get back into whatever we needed to do. An inflection is where you change trajectory forever. Coronavirus is changing our trajectory forever. There's, who knows, a billion people, maybe more, who have now learned how to do things from home, learn how to do things from another location, not felt the obligation to be in the same space. Now, they're in the same time, they're working with each other, but that's an inflection. And that inflection changes things. And the hunter's mindset is, and this is how it helps you in a crisis, is there is an opportunity, there is absolutely an opportunity inside of this that is going to be huge. Now, I will tell you that very few people are going to see it. I mean, like 90+% of the population will not understand it, but those who do will profit from it and profit from it mightily. Those businesses that understand how to reap the benefits of this opportunity will, in fact, see a change in their business forever. There will be businesses that will go out of business that we never thought were going to go out of business because, well, this is what has happened. The virus has knocked them out. Even though you'd say, how in the world does a virus knock out a business? Simple. What happens is that it changes the underlying structure of the market, and that market changes forever, and they were not able to adapt to that market. And I'm going to tell you that the hunter's mindset allows you to, in fact, engage in a positive way and take advantage of those opportunities that are there. So let me make a few announcements and remind you all that every Monday I do a for-fee, that's a members only Speed Start Monday. It is a sales meeting for those who either have a sales meeting that they hate or they don't have a sales meeting at all. We get together on Monday and Tuesday based upon US and UK holidays and my travel, which right now is none. But I also, for those of you who are saying, well, I don't know if I want to put out some dough, but hey, if you want a sampler, you want a little taste, you want to be like when you're in the Costco or the Sam's, they have the little sampler food. So you can come and get a freemium. So Speed Start Monday freemiums start about 6:50 a.m. Pacific time. And you will get a little nugget. You'll get a little taste, but just like the Costco, you won't get a full meal. You'll maybe get just a little part of a little bit of a hot dog or, a taquito or something. So that's every Monday. You get a little freemium. Next Monday will be number 817. So you might want to join me for that. Also, I would recommend that you join, and maybe you're already there because you're watching this, but go to the Facebook group, Position to Win, and leave questions, leave comments, ask what you want to know about this. So that way next week we can answer those. We are, like I said, we're going to keep going down the hunter's mindset. I'm giving you things that, frankly, clients have paid me lots of money for. I'm sharing them with you because these times are, they demand it, and we need to do that. And finally, go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. Check this stuff out. We've got some interesting quizzes and questionnaires and lots of different things. You can also find out about Speed Start Monday. And if you do that, what I believe will happen is that you'll start to develop what we've talked about today, which is a hunter's mindset. Also, you're going to see on that website is that we'll be announcing the Yin and Yang coaching program shortly. Any last comments or questions, Sandra, before we say goodbye to everybody and wrap it up?
I would say any points on how to deal with negative peer pressure?
So we'll get into that in more detail later, but this is a good question. When you're talking to people and we have a pandemic, we have this kind of worldwide crisis, it's easy for everybody to get into this decidedly negative mindset. Everybody's just, oh, you know, look at this problem and look at that problem. See, if we stacked all of the destruction going around on top of each other, it would reach to, I don't know, to Jupiter. I mean, it would reach out there. And yet what that does is that brings us into a nothing is going to be better, nothing is going to improve. So if you have negative peers, what you want to do is you want to be nice to them, but what you won't want to do is you don't want to get sucked in. It's very easy to get sucked into a mental state where nothing is going to work and nothing is going to happen in a positive way. And there will be negative peer pressure. If you start talking about develop a hunter's mindset and you start talking about how there's opportunity and things are happening and things are moving forward, there will be people who will look at you and say, you're just nuts. You're just out of your mind. There is no way that the world is going to ever get back on track. There's no way things are going to happen. And all I'm going to tell you is that if you succumb to that negative peer pressure, you have failed at controlling one of the two things you can control. Actually, you failed at both. Because remember, we can control how we react. And number two, we can control our time. Minimize the amount of negative that happens in your life because it is the only one you have, as far as I know. And I can tell you that do not waste your time with negative people because I have rarely ever found critics that have done really well. I have rarely ever found people who are critics who have had an exceptionally good life and experienced all the things that you can. Now, I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm not a person wearing, rose colored glasses, though I have them close by. And in fact, I can even put them on for you. But I can tell you right now, opportunity is out there, and go out there and make it happen and develop a hunter's mindset. Because if you don't, what is the alternative? The alternative is that you are playing a losing hand, which never makes any sense to me. So with that, I want to thank Sandra for being here today and asking the questions and monitoring what's going on the group. I also want to thank each and every one of you. Make sure that you plan on joining me on Monday for a little Speed Start Monday freemium. Everybody needs a little tiny morsel to get you started. And then we'll be back here next Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time and another exciting episode of The Raging Verbalist. I'm John Paul Mendoza, and it's been my pleasure to spend some time with you. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.